Hello and welcome back to Eduro Learning's Facebook Live event. I'm Chrissy and I'm excited to be back with you today. It's been a while since I've joined the Facebook Live. The wonderful Kim Cafino and Jeff Utic have been holding down the fort and talking a lot about empathy. So today's topic, as we are wrapping up this Teaching Empathy series, is all about the importance of teaching empathy. So today I want to just chat with you about some reasons why it's so important and give you a little recap of some of the things that we've shared. I can see that I have Kim in the audience. Thanks, Kim. She's going to be watching the back channel for me and answering any questions and reminding me that my time is up because I've forgotten to put my timer on. So we're just going to chat for about 15-20 minutes and hopefully you'll get some ideas, some tips, some strategies, and we'll also give you some links to some resources all about how you can teach empathy in the classroom. So I just want to start off today with talking about why I think teaching empathy in the classroom is so important. And of course, me being me, I have made a sketch note and I will share that sketch note with you after the Facebook Live has finished. It's still a work in progress. I was organising my thoughts this morning and thinking about why empathy is important in the classroom. And it really struck me that there were 3 reasons why we really need to make sure that we are teaching this important skill, because empathy does matter, especially in today's world with everything that's going on. We hear so much in the news about all the bad stuff that's going on. Teaching empathy, I think, is a way to help us put some good stuff out there as well. And so when I was thinking about 3 reasons why teaching empathy is important in my classroom for the students that I come in contact with, it came down to these 3 things. And number 1 was that it really does help you build a positive classroom culture. And by that I mean we need to understand ourselves and we need to understand each other. And in order to do that, we have to have empathy. And so we have to understand what it's like to walk in someone else's shoes, what it's like from someone else's perspective. And so by teaching empathy, we can really help build that positive classroom culture that I know as educators, we all hope our classroom has. Then that led me on to thinking about how teaching empathy can really strengthen a community. And it can strengthen it by doing things like making you aware that there are other perspectives out there, make you not have to agree with someone's opinion, but take steps to understand where that person is coming from. And it may or may not change your own opinion, but we need to be mindful of one another, mindful that everybody's circumstances are a little bit different, mindful that some people view things a little bit differently than us, and that there are lots of different influences that help us form our opinions, whether that be culture, family values, beliefs, our own knowledge, prior knowledge, things like that. And so by teaching empathy in our classroom, we can really start strengthening a community because we have some understanding or we have some knowledge about other people's emotions and feelings and beliefs and culture, things that drive us, things that we're passionate about. And I think that the stronger our communities are, the more we can not put aside our differences, but kind of be okay with our differences. And as long as those differences aren't harming people, then we can kind of understand that, okay, that's what you believe in, that's what is important to you, and I'm okay with that, because what's important to me, you're okay with. And so I think that by teaching empathy, we can help our students to understand that that's the kind of world that we want to live in today. I think that one of the most important things about teaching empathy is that we need to prepare our students to be leaders. Not only, I'm not talking about leaders of the countries, although that's where some of our students may end up, that's where definitely some of our students will end up, but leaders in their own community, whether that community be the classroom, whether that community is their local community, whether that community is the surfing club that they belong to, or the basketball team that they practice with and play with. Teaching empathy really, I think you have to be empathetic to be a really good leader, because you have to make decisions based on lots of different perspectives. You can't just rule yourself. You can't just make decisions that only benefit you. You have to make decisions that benefit a lot of people, and sometimes those decisions aren't perfect for everyone. And by having empathy, I think that one of the most important things that you can do is that you can take other perspectives and help those shape the decisions moving forward. And so preparing our students to be leaders in their own communities is something that I think will happen organically by us teaching empathy in the classroom. Hi Emily, thanks for joining us. It's great to see you here. For those of you who don't know, Emily is our awesome author of our online course, which is called Teaching Empathy to Unite a Divided World. And we've been breaking down the 3 courses in that big series course and talking about those at each of our live events. And Emily says empathy is the #1 skill for success. And yes, she's absolutely 100% right. That really is the #1 skill. And Kim's sharing with us that our world is so interconnected today with our access to technology that we are being exposed to so many different ideas, and at the same time we're kind of isolated from them. So we need practice understanding those different ideas and understanding why people have those different ideas, so that we can kind of come to the realization that, okay, the world is not just us. The world is full of so many different people with different ideas and different ways of seeing things, and that's okay. It's what helps shape us as this amazing world. So we've talked a little bit about why teaching empathy is important. The 3 things that I mentioned before, that it builds a positive classroom culture, it strengthens a community, and it helps prepare our students as leaders in their own communities. And so now that we know that we do know that teaching empathy is really important, we can now talk about how do we do that? And if you're in the audience and you haven't let me know where you're from yet, and you're teaching empathy in the classroom, we would love to hear how you're doing it. In a moment, I'm going to share some of the ways that we've shared over the last few weeks that we ourselves have taught empathy in our own classrooms, but we would love to hear how you're doing it if you join us. And even if you watch this video later, you watch the recorded version, we would love to hear from you. Just put a comment on the post and we will retweet that and share it, and thank you for sharing your ideas in that way. So how do we do this #1 skill? How do we teach it? Keeping in mind that empathy really matters, and that empathy is about kindness and self-respect and dignity. We shared with you way back when we did our first Facebook Live event. It was me, extremely nervous, still extremely nervous again today. We looked at fake news, and we looked at the responsibility of being digitally literate. And so we shared with you just recently the CARP test, where we can use that to check our sources where we're getting information from, because technology does give us that access to different ideas. We kind of need to be a little bit careful about what we believe, especially in a world that seems to be full of fake news. And so I think that's one of the really important steps, one of the probably the most important first step when we are teaching empathy, is how do we determine whether the news is real or not, especially if those ideas are going to help us shape our own opinions. Hi Charlene, thank you for joining us. Yes, it is a grey old day here in Perth. I have the lights on, I'm not outside, and I've got my scarf on. The temperature's a little bit cold. I'm so happy that you could join us today, especially it's your day off from the classroom, so it's wonderful to have you here. If you have some ways that you're teaching your little ones, because I know that you teach the really younger students, if you can share with us some of the ways that you're teaching empathy, might not be directly teaching empathy, but some of the things that you're doing in your classroom, we would love to hear those ideas. So one of the courses that we have in our Teaching Empathy to Unite a Divided World is the fake news, and we not only gave away the CARP test, there was something else that we gave away. Oh yes, we did the search skills. So we have a couple of videos, and we have some giant PDFs that have lessons about how you can really teach your students those search skills that help them to then determine if the resources that they're using online are true or reliable or authoritative or credible. Emily is now sharing that empathy is really important in the business world, and if you can empathize with your customers and you know their needs, you'll be able to sell your product, and that is so true. I think also it's important that we understand each other and understand any needs. You're right, Emily, because that's exactly where I was going with it, that it just helps you to be a better person. One of the second courses is Respectfully Disagreeing as a Resilient Citizen, and that's just the perfect topic about being a better person. And Kim was doing our Facebook Live videos for talking about how you can respectfully disagree as a resilient citizen, and talking about compliments versus comments, and really digging into how can you respond to others and go beyond just saying, hey, that's great, giving some constructive criticism or some constructive feedback, and how to do that in an empathetic way. And so I think that that's another important way that we can help teach empathy, is to teach our students how to respond. And not only how to respond when things are positive, but how do we respond when our online work or our online presence has a negative one. Because let's be realistic here, we aren't, society is not perfect, and there are some things that go on, especially when we find our younger students online, that aren't great. And we need to teach our kids how to respond to that, and so be resilient. Being resilient and being respectful are part of having this greater empathetic personality, and I think that that's just as important as responding positively. It's just as important to know how to respond when things are negative. So we have some awesome resources in the Respectfully Disagreeing as a Resilient Citizen course about just how you can help your students to do that. And then the third course that's in the series, Teaching Empathy to Unite a Divided World is about breaking down classroom walls to build bridges, because that's how we can harness technology to bring the outside world in. That's how we can get exposure to those different ideas and those different cultural beliefs and those different ways of thinking by breaking down our classroom walls. So that in itself is something that's really important to help your kids be more empathetic, is to expose them to the outside world, to help them understand that there's a lot more beyond the four walls of their classroom, beyond the ring road of their community, in their own world, and beyond their own country, that there is a lot more going on in the world, and that we need to understand what those things are. And especially now in a world where we're teaching our kids to be global citizens, the likelihood that their learning environment is going to go from school to a more global company. They're likely to be working from home or working from an office where their head office is somewhere else in the world. They're more likely to need to know how to communicate and collaborate in a global manner. And if you're not an empathetic person, if you don't understand that important skill about empathy, then that kind of work environment is going to be a complete and utter struggle for you. And so we'll be finding that that's what employers are looking for. They're going to be looking for people who can communicate and collaborate in an empathetic manner, that they can empathize with whoever it is that they're working with, find out what their needs are, and then adjust what is needed to provide that customer, for lack of a better word, with the product that they need. So it just keeps coming back to how important teaching empathy really is. And so we have one more Facebook Live event around, well, actually it's not a Facebook Live event, I lie. It is, we have one more event which is happening on May the 25th as we wrap up this Teaching Empathy series, and that is we're having a webinar. And in that webinar we will have myself and the lovely Kim Cafino and the awesome Jeff Udick, and the amazing Emily is going to join us as the author of our course, Teaching Empathy to Unite a Divided World. We're going to really delve a little bit deeper into those three topics: the fake news, the respectfully disagreeing as a resilient citizen, and the breaking down the classroom walls to build bridges. We're going to delve a little bit deeper into that, and of course discuss the whole teaching empathy topic. So don't miss out on being able to sign up for that webinar. You can do that by making sure that you're subscribed to our newsletter, and you can subscribe to our newsletter by going to our website, edurolearning.com. And before I forget, there is a awesome freebie, a PDF freebie this week, and it is a lovely infographic / PDF all about teaching empathy, and you can get that from bit.ly, bit.ly /Eduro Teach Empathy. And I think Kim's going to put that link in the comment section of this video for us, so that if you are watching this a bit later you can click on that link and go and get this week's freebie. And while you're there, then go to edurolearning.com and sign up for our newsletter, because going out in next week's newsletter is the link to sign up for the webinar. And because it's going to be a Google Hangout Live, it means that there will be a capped number. So you need to fill in the Google form that is in the newsletter and register your interest for joining us in the webinar. As Emily said, it is going to be awesome. So make sure that you don't miss out on that. Get to our website, subscribe to our newsletter, and make sure that you fill out the Google form and get into our webinar, because that is going to be amazing. So that's it from me today. I will share the sketch note with you a little bit later. I want to put some finishing touches on it because I mentioned some things that I hadn't brainstormed. So when I do that, I will post it in the comments, and that will also be available for you. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure, even though the weather's not that fantastic. I hope that the weather is fantastic wherever you are. And thank you for joining me today to let me talk to you a little bit more about why it's so important to teach empathy in your classroom. Bye for now.